A continued perfect start, a 2-0 win over Hungary, and Germany, the hosts, are the first team in Euro 2024 to make it to the round of 16. Stevie Nicol is here with me from the studios. Mark Ogden from Frankfurt will be talking about his experiences as well as tomorrow's game between England and Denmark. We'll also talk about the earlier game today between Croatia and Albania. James Ollie will hopefully join us to talk about the aforementioned Three Lions. But let's talk about Germany, fellas. The first team to make it through the round of 16. Everybody knew that they were good enough to go far. But Stevie, talk to me about this victory against Hungary. Obviously, Musiala doing his thing, Gundogan. But what have you made of Germany so far now that they've booked their ticket to the round of 16?
Well, I think, again, today, no question, the opposition was a little bit tougher in Hungary than Scotland were. Asked a few more questions, but overall, there's no doubt the best team won. Germany were in control of the majority of the game. Probably didn't test the goalkeeper as much as they would have liked to, but really ran the show. I guess the negative, if you want to look at a bigger picture, would be that now I had to make some saves in the first half. I mean, and we're talking breakaways. You know, there was no real build-up of play. It was all breakaways that Hungary produced in the first half. And as I said, Neuer made a couple of saves. And that would be the only negative from this game today, because possession-wise, obviously you score 2 goals. Can't complain about that. But the little negative would be defensively, maybe against more clinical finishers and maybe better sides, that would go against them. I think if I'm Nagelsmann, I'm looking at, do I really leave the 2 centre-backs, Tah and Rudiger, on their own? Because the 2 full-backs are gone all the time. Toni Kroos isn't going to stop many teams on the break. So that would be the only negative. But other than that, deserved victory, a couple of good goals. For me, Gundogan was the man of the match, involved in both goals. And I think he's a great foil for Musiala and Wirtz. So, yeah, another positive game for Germany. And as you said, qualified for the next stage, deservedly so. And you don't want to play them. That's the bottom line.
That is the bottom line. As you mentioned, some great talent there. Musiala doing his thing. Ilkay Gundogan, what a tremendous technical player he is. Mark Ogden, let's stick with that point that Stevie Nicol was talking about, because, yes, it was a win. Yes, it was tougher, obviously, than the first game against Scotland. I know Stevie doesn't want to hear about that one anymore. But there was a point about the fact that Hungary did attempt 11 times. And there was one specific moment as well, I remember. It probably won't be talked about enough, but it was 1-0 to Germany. Hungary were knocking on the door. Dominik Szoboszlai took the shot, and it took a really good block from Tah to really deny them. So there were moments. What do you make of Germany, their chances in the round of 16, and also the big question, right? What happens when they face tougher opposition?
Well, I think that Germany already they've grown into the tournament, because they came into the tournament with people thinking that they might not even get out of the group because they've had such a terrible time in the last 18 months that, you know, this was an awkward group in the sense that Switzerland aren't bad. Hungary have shown, you know, in recent, you know, months that they can beat teams. And Scotland have had a good run at times as well. So it was a difficult group, but, you know, they've absolutely obliterated Scotland. They've beaten Hungary. I think, obviously, Switzerland is next up. And if Switzerland beats Scotland tonight, then that game is a battle for top spot. And, you know, it's kind of important that Germany win the group, because it's a lot easier for them to qualify for the latter stages if they top the group. So, for me, there hasn't been an outstanding team in the tournament yet. And I think, you know, Germany's impressive performance against Scotland was tempered a little bit today. But there's still, you know, Musiala is clearly going to be, you know, one of the big stars of the tournament, and Wirtz as well. And they just look like a team that is growing in confidence. And I think that the nation's beginning to believe in Germany as well now. So, you know, clearly they've got issues there. They've got, like Stevie said, defensively that they could be picked apart. But I don't think anybody's going to want to play Germany with the home backing, with Musiala playing as he is. You know, he just wriggles through players. He's just got this amazing talent to beat players, and he's like a worm at times. He just finds a way through. And I think, you know, he's getting confidence as well. So if I was German, I'd be really confident going into the final game in the knockout stages, because I think Germany have got a bit of momentum now. I think that, for me, I think they're the favourites.
They're the favorites right now. After 21 years old and 114 days, by the way, Musiala becomes the youngest player in a nation's first 2 group stage games at a single Euros. Meanwhile, he became the first player to score in Germany's first 2 matches since Mario Gomez at Euro 2012. So, Stevie, what does Germany do for that 3rd game then? Just rotate the squad, just keep going? Because clearly, as you mentioned, there are vulnerabilities, there are weaknesses. Do you think Nagelsmann should keep that steam train rolling, or maybe just like ease off as they look ahead to the round of 16?
I mean, I guess this really depends on Nagelsmann's thinking. Personally, I would prefer to just keep on steam rolling. You just keep playing well, and regardless of the opposition, if you play well and you get in a position where you're not scared to play anybody and the momentum's going, as Augie said, then you keep winning. But if Nagelsmann's thinking, well, you know what, if he can look at all the other groups and try and figure out what might happen or what will be in concrete by the time they play Switzerland, he might decide that, okay, I'll take a win if we get it, but I can also play a lot of other players, not just to give the so-called first team a rest, but to give other players time on the field so that, injuries, suspensions, just whatever might happen, then when I have to make changes, then it's seamless. So it really depends on Nagelsmann. As a player, though, I just want to keep winning. If I'm playing well, if I'm scoring goals in particular, if I'm Musiala, I just want to be on that field. I want that ball at my feet, and I want to get after whoever they put in front of me. So from a player's point of view, I think you just keep steamrolling along.
Okay, I'm actually intrigued by something here, because you are in Frankfurt. You've been in Germany reporting. What's been the atmosphere? Specifically from the German fan base, I guess. I know that we see in the stadiums a lot of support, specifically in that opening game. But what's the reaction and the overall sentiment, I guess, for this national team? Because obviously there's been a lot of changes. When Nagelsmann came in, he's had to revitalize the optimism of the nation, specifically towards the beginning of 2024. And now that they're hosting it, now that they've got 2 wins, do you feel that there's a mountain that's growing here? How have you felt overall the German interest in their national team?
It's really strange, because I was in Munich for the first game, and I've got to be honest, there were many more Scotland fans in Munich than German fans, and I was going at the game thinking, is this going to be a sellout of Tartan Army at this place? But the Germany fans were there. It was all a sense of very calm and understated. And I haven't seen that many Germany fans in groups around, but what I have seen, Germany is a very multicultural country. There's the amount of the Turkish fans everywhere. Last night, after Turkey had beaten Georgia, the streets came alive with, cars, peeping the horns, Turkish flags driving past. Really noisy. There's a massive Turkish community. Over 7 million people with Turkish ethnicity live in Germany. So that is a big thing. Albania, as we saw against Italy in that opening game in Dortmund, 50,000 Albanians there. So Germany's a real melting pot. So a lot of countries have a lot of fans in Germany, and they're the ones that make all the noise. The Germans, funnily enough, are just, almost not in hiding, but they're just not exactly shouting from the rooftops. But I think they know as it progresses that they'll probably be the last team standing. Turkey will go out, Albania will go out, Germany will still be there, and then that groundswell of support will come out. But also, Germany know now to win a tournament. They've been there before. Maybe they're not getting carried away yet, because they know there's a lot more harder games to come. But the tournament has really taken off in this country, and it's been great. Wherever you go, you see all different colours. You see lots of fans from all over the place, all good-natured. 99% of the time it's been good-natured. I was in Frankfurt last night. Scotland fans, Denmark fans, Croatia, Albania, England fans. No trouble, but it was there's a gig on at the local festival hall last night where 13,000 fans were watching a heavy metal band. So they outnumbered even the football fans. So yeah.
Did you go, Augie?
No, it's not really my kind of music. I'll have to Google the name, because it's I don't want to get it wrong, but it was it was quite a lively crew, to be honest. It was
Augie likes love songs, don't you?
Yeah, who do you go for, Augie? The Lionel Richie and the like?
Not really. No, that's not really my scene either. But it's definitely, I think it was the five-fingered punch or something it was called. I'll have to find out what it's called.
I like that.
A heavy metal band from Las Vegas. So yeah, I'll have you've got me on the 18. I'll have to find out what they're called.
All right, that's good. Well, hopefully we'll get that towards the end of the show. And listen, let's talk about permutations here, because this win against Hungary, means obviously that Germany remained perfect, top of Group A with 6 points. and obviously Switzerland getting ready to face Scotland in less than an hour, and Hungary have 0 points, obviously 2 losses. So there's a lot here, Stevie Nicol, that opens the door maybe for that second place, specifically if Scotland can do something here against Switzerland. I know that the game obviously is less than an hour, so in terms of VOD and watching this later won't count. Sorry to our producers, but we got to talk about permutations for Group A, Stevie. What are your hopes here? What are you thinking? Germany has this group in the bag, obviously, but it's open for that second spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that has watched this group already would tell you that pretty clearly Germany are going to win it, and it's quite clear that Switzerland are probably quite a distance ahead of both Scotland and Hungary. I mean, for Scotland right now, going into this game, we're looking for some redemption, to be honest, just to be competitive, to try and put a performance on. I mean, right now, it's not about winning the game. I don't think, I guess I can only speak for myself. I'm not thinking Scotland's going to turn around and wallop Switzerland or outplay them. They might outfight them, but whether they get the win or not, I don't know. But right now, after that debacle against Germany, showing me age there, really it's just about being competitive and putting a performance on. And if they do that, then they might have a chance. So that's kind of where Scotland is. Switzerland, on the other hand, are going to be looking at what Germany did to Scotland, try and pile on again some of the similar situations, pushing them back, putting them under pressure defensively, waiting for them to cough the ball up, and then take advantage of a defence that's obviously going to be a little scared, and a goalkeeper who's not going to want to face too many shots again.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see there. And Augie, I believe you know the name of the band now. What is it?
Five Finger Death Punch.
Oh, wow.
It was a sellout at the festival hall, so get on Google, guys. But just on the permutations element, I think if whoever wins Group A will play the second team in Group C. Now, you'd think that'd be Denmark or Serbia. I mean, obviously, it could be England. If England loses to Denmark on Thursday, then you could be having a Germany-England game in the second round. But as it stands, you'd think Germany would want to win the group because they finished second in the group. They'll play the runners-up of the group that contains Spain and Italy. So I don't think Germany want to play Spain or Italy in round two. So they'd probably rather take on Denmark or Serbia. So it is important to win the group. But like I say, they could win the group and end up facing England. But I think that would take a bit of a surprise result against Denmark on Thursday. But it is, there are many reasons you should win your group, but just to make sure you get the softer route to the latter stages.
And that kind of plays into what you were asking earlier. If you're Germany and England do lose to Denmark, then maybe what we were talking about, you play not a weakened side, but not your first team, and accept the consequences. And if they play great, then that's good. But if they lose, then you end up playing Denmark. If England indeed lose to Denmark, so that whole thing you were asking is still wide open. It's still a possibility, but clearly you expect England to beat Denmark, and if that's the case, then of course, Germany have to go and beat Switzerland in the last game.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about England later. I'm not so sure if it's as easy as done as beating Denmark for England, but we're going to talk about England in a second. But I say keep that steam train rolling, Nagelsmann. Just keep going, try and get that victory to win Group A, as Augie mentioned, different routes for round of 16. Right then, we are going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll talk about the earlier game, Croatia against Albania, and some England chatter and a little bit more. Hopefully James Ollie will join us, but if not, we have everything we need right here on ESPN FC Live. We'll be right back after this ad. Welcome back, everybody. ESPN FC live here during Euros action. By the way, Copa America opens tomorrow as well. So Euros and Copa America will be filled up here on ESPN FC Live. Stevie Nicol, Mark Ogden. Let's talk about the game earlier. Woo, what a game. Croatia 2, Albania 2. And by the way, Albania's Klaus Gasula became just the second player to score a goal and an own goal in a match at a Euros. And also, at 94 minutes and 23 seconds, his goal was the latest equalizing goal scored in a Euro Championship history, excluding extra time, of course. I mean, they have the support, Albania, Augie. We know that, right? You felt it already. And Croatia, we have really seen this even from the first game against Spain. They are just looking a little old. Luka Modric, as wonderful as he is, he can't do everything. But they did salvage a point, but still tremendous for Albania to get that equalizer, and Croatia. More questions than answers, right?
Yeah, and that result really keeps the group alive, doesn't it? I think both Albania and Croatia have a chance of sneaking through. You know, maybe even in first place, but definitely in second place, but definitely in third place if they win their final game. But you know, I think Croatia, they are one of those teams that you're watching it in Perisic and Modric. It is like watching them in 2018, but they're so experienced and they're so clever that it doesn't really have an impact. It just seems to the players that have replaced the greats of that team have just not quite got the quality. But I would never rule Croatia out. I mean, we saw in the World Cup against Brazil, they can just take teams to the wire. They can pass them off the pitch and they can beat them on penalties. So if Croatia get through, they'll be a dangerous opponent. But I think, you know, Albania and Georgia last night, I think the real kind of outsiders in the tournament are just going for it, and I think that's really good because rather than being cautious, and we used to see these teams, you know, defend and just try and sneak a draw, just going for the wins. And it's a crazy games all the time, but it's entertaining. So hopefully Albania will give it a shot next week against Spain, and Croatia against Italy. You just don't know, but I think Croatia could still sneak through and cause a problem for teams in the knockout stages.
Yeah, Group B. I mean, Spain currently, obviously, 3 points. Italy with 3 points. Albania got 1 point. Croatia 1 point. So, yes, there's still a lot of narratives that could happen here. Stevie Nicol, what did you make out of that game specifically? I mean, we know that here's what I like about Albania, Stevie Nicol, which is something I think England need. We'll talk about England in a second, but they just go for it, and they're gutsy going forward. You would have thought that Croatia were going to be more defensively savvy. They're World Cup finalists in 2018. We know how much they can do. Were you surprised more by Albania's might, or disappointed with how the way Croatia didn't close this game up?
Well, I think you have to think that a team that has been so successful the way Croatia have recently in the big tournaments, you expected them to not be comfortable winners, but be decisive winners, and they were far from that. Yes, they had the majority of the ball, but they really didn't do anything with it. You know, they scored in the 74th to equalise and the 76th to go ahead. But before that and after that, I mean, they really didn't create an awful lot. On the other hand, if you're Albania, yes, you're absolutely delighted to get a point out of the game, having been 1-up again and then going down 2-1, but you get it back in the 94th minute, as you said, you're overjoyed. But really, you should be kicking yourself. I mean, if ever a game should have been over at half-time, it was probably this one. I mean, they could have been 3-0 up. The chances, they did score, yes, but they had at least 2, maybe 3 chances and opportunities where I think they should have scored as well. And they just waltzed through the back line of Croatia. So Albania will be a little bit pleased to get a point, but disappointed not to get 3. And for Croatia, they've got to look at certainly what they do behind the ball. I mean, if you look at Spain, when they're going forward behind the ball, are so tight defensively that teams just can't get out. This was the complete opposite for Croatia today against Albania. Every time they coughed the ball up, Albania was getting at them and getting right into their own penalty box. So I'm not quite as confident about Croatia as Augie. I think there's real holes there, and I think going forward, with the amount of ball that they had today, they've shown that they're not particularly creative. And again, one of the goals was an own goal. So, yeah, I'm a little worried for Croatia. They might get out this group, but if they do, I don't think there'll be too many teams overly concerned about Croatia. They might look at them with respect and look at the team sheet, see the names on the team sheet, but in terms of form, in terms of the way that they're playing, in terms of how they defended against Albania, I wouldn't be particularly worried if I was any of the other big teams going further in this tournament.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that Croatia is probably hoping for either a draw between Spain and Italy, or even Italy to beat Spain, because then they can hopefully take advantage of the last game. But it is open, but yeah, more questions than answers for Croatia, and this group remains interesting indeed, although of course Spain and Italy leading the way. All right, we're waiting for James Ollie, but obviously he's just dealing with the England presser with Gareth Southgate, of course, as they face Denmark, the team that they faced in the previous Euros as well, in the lead up to the final, before and eventually losing to Italy. But just a reminder, Group C, England with 3 points, Denmark with 1, Slovenia with 1, and Serbia with 0. England just with that 1-0 win. And really, Mark Ogden, you're going to the game tomorrow. Obviously, Denmark going through a lot of off-the-field optimism just because of everything that happened in the previous Euros with Christian Eriksen, and then him being the goal scorer as well. I mean, there's a lot there. But England, my God, I mean, I've got enough to say, but I want to get your opinions. They won, but not without a million questions, because once again, I felt that it was very unimaginative, sort of hesitant. And to me, Gareth Southgate's biggest weakness is what he does or he doesn't do during games, is reactionary management, in-game tactics. What did you make of that game against Serbia? I know you've talked about it past, but really looking ahead to Denmark, what does England need to do here to not just win, but really win as what they're meant to be, one of the favorites in Euro 2024?
Well, Gareth Southgate's biggest weakness is Gareth Southgate. Because,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because his approach, in his credit, he has taken England from a bad place in 2016 to being regularly talked about as a competitor in a major competition. But 2018, 2020, Euro 2020, and the World Cup in France in 2022, whenever they play a good team that can keep the ball, that can cause problems, that forces England to try and dictate the play, they struggle. And that is, first of all, down to his tactics and his selections, and also how he uses the players. Now, he's trying to cram all the best players into the England team. We've seen before over years and years and years, and Steve, you'll know this about John Barnes. John Barnes, one of the greatest players that England's ever produced, an absolutely outstanding player for Liverpool, never quite produced in an England shirt. And maybe he was persevered with too long because it didn't fit the system that he probably thrived in. But, Phil Foden may become the modern day John Barnes, and hopefully not. But sometimes you have to look at the players and think, yes, you've got outstanding players, but a less able player might be better for the team than the player that you're picking. Because for me, Bukayo Saka and Phil Foden, I don't think they can play in the same team. They both want to play in the same position. So by playing Phil Foden out on the right, on the left, you're kind of diminishing his abilities. So, but saying that, they won the game. They won the game and the top of the group. And I think Denmark, for me, this group, it gets progressively easier for England. Serbia, for me, are the better team in the group. Denmark, less good than Serbia, and then Slovenia. I don't think Denmark are very good. I think we saw Christian Eriksen in the Premier League. He hasn't got the legs anymore to impact a game. Rasmus Højlund hits and miss for Man United. So I don't think Denmark have anything that England should fear. It should be an opportunity for England to show what they're capable of. But I think for that to happen, Southgate has to be bold and make a big call in the team. Maybe he's got to drop Trent Alexander-Arnold, because I don't quite know why he's playing the right back in midfield. You've got midfielders like Kobe Mainoo and Adam Wharton who can play that role. So again, putting the big names in the team, overlooking players who are probably better at that position. It's a classic England mistake. All the time it happens. Gerrard and Lampard. We see it over the years that the England manager, for whatever reason, won't drop the big name players, and it makes the team worse for it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a denial thing, because I just saw an interview with Gareth Southgate on ITV saying that he thought Phil Foden did a wonderful job for England in the previous game. And obviously he's protecting his player, but and it's not to blame Phil Foden. It's to your point about, the position that he has to be in. Stevie, let's talk about what England need to do here, because yes, to Oggie's point, Serbia are arguably the toughest team in this group. If anything, they're going to be in your face, be physical, etc. But England's biggest enemy, just like Augie said about Southgate, England's bigger enemy is England itself, and they have to figure out what they want to do. What do you think England need to do? Not to just get out of the group and win it, but really just become a force and finally win the first major title since 1966.
Well, I think the goal should be to put a team on the field that can control the game for the majority of it. You know, nobody's ever generally going to control the game from the first minute to the last. I think we all get that. But you always get the feeling that England they're just a mistake away from tripping themselves up. You know, you never ever feel as though the game's over. You know, I think maybe there's too many of us think because of the names on the jerseys that they should be producing better football. But at the end of the day, if they can get a consistency level and keep it at that level and control games, then the quality that they do have, that little sparkle dust that Foden has and Bellingham has and Saka has, you know, if you can get a level of performance, then that dust will eventually come to the surface. And that for me would be the ideal England performance. But I'm in Lulu land because that's just generally not what England do. They start well, they get ahead, and then for some reason they try and just contain and forget to keep playing. That is all the things that I think about when I think about an England side. But again, they're playing Denmark. I'm with Augie. I don't think Denmark's a good side. You know, if you look at the Denmark team, it's probably full of mid-table Premier League players against a top Premier League team in England. I mean, that's kind of the way I'm looking at this game. And so that means it's about England. Can they produce? Can they do the ultimate, which is what I was asking for, talking about a level of performance that means that they're in control and then they pick off the opposition with a quality. That's the dream. Will it happen? Probably not. They're probably going to scuff through 1-0 England. I expect them to win, but I don't see any reason why they're going to be particularly dominant and completely change the mind of the majority of us.
Yeah, let's focus a little bit more on this lineup then. Oh, is there anybody that you would want to be in this starting 11 against Denmark? Obviously, the likes of somebody like Jude Bellingham is a no-brainer, but I got to tell you, obviously he's going to start, but, you know, the likes of, Harry Kane, really, I don't know if he hasn't gotten over his back injury, but he looked a little quiet in that game. Is there anybody in this lineup that you say, we talked about Saka and Phil Foden, but what would be your lineup here? And we don't have to go player by player because we know Jordan Pickford will start, etc. But who would you want in this lineup starting off against Denmark?
I like Anthony Gordon. I think Anthony Gordon brings something different. He brings a directness to the team, a bit of ambition, and he will get behind the defenders. He would frighten Denmark, so I'd put him in. And it will probably be at the expense of Foden or Saka. I think either of those has to play on the right. Whoever's on the left, I think Anthony Gordon on the left. He's not as good a player as Phil Foden, but for what he would bring to this team, the impact he would bring, I think he's worth having a look at. And I think looking at Alexander-Arnold, I wouldn't play him in midfield. I think Wayne Rooney made a point last week saying he just can't defend, he can't play that role. Rooney said he shouldn't be anywhere near the midfield, and he's right. So I would play Kobbie Mainoo or Adam Wharton, and people think Adam Wharton's not even been a Premier League player for 6 months. Yeah, but he's a really good player, and he's perfect for that role. So would it be that much of a leap to play Adam Wharton against Denmark? Players that he's familiar with, like Stevie says, players that he'll see every week in the Premier League who aren't as good as him. So I'd be bold. I'd play Adam Wharton in midfield next to Declan Rice, and I'd put Anthony Gordon in and say, look, it's only Denmark. I'm sorry, Denmark, but it is. England should beat Denmark. But the problem is that when England play a team, it's happened over the years, like against the Swedes or people like that, they kind of get dragged down to a physical battle because the Scandinavian teams are good in the sense of fitness. They can match England physically, and they try to take it into one of those, cul-de-sacs. England need to try and pass Denmark off the pitch, but they won't do that because they revert back to what they know, and it's just to try and beat teams with energy. So I don't expect it's going to be a good game to watch. I think it might be a bit of a slugfest, but if England win, they'll be happy with that.
Yeah,
I don't understand why you wouldn't play Bellingham, Rice, and Foden as your three. Bellingham's going to do everything. If he needs to defend, he'll get back in and defend, but he'll also get himself in the penalty box. It's kind of an old-fashioned. When you used to play 4-4-2, one of the midfielders would go and one would sit. and then he would get back once they've gone. I mean, Bellingham would do that, no danger. He would do it in his sleep because he's probably, as a kid, brought up doing it. Maybe didn't do it so much with Dortmund or certainly with Real Madrid, but he can do that. And so that means that you put Foden where you're talking about, where he's best, and then you get Gordon on the left, who's going to liven things up and get after people. So that's what I would prefer to see.
Stevie, just on the left-back situation, because obviously Trippier played left-back, he's right-footed. He's got Luke Shaw in the squad. Luke Shaw's not played since February, but you need the balance there. Would you play Shaw? Do you think he's just not played enough games to even consider it?
Honestly, I don't know why I took him. This is a guy that can't. He's hardly stepped on the field, number one. Number two, the fact that he hasn't played for so long, he wouldn't be able to last. So you're guaranteeing, I know you get 5 subs, but then you're taking a chance. You know, what if after 20 minutes, you figure out that he absolutely shouldn't be on, he's not fit enough, and you're 1-0 down. So I wouldn't go near Luke Shaw. I don't know why I took him. Absolutely, I would just leave Trippier where he is. And then take it from there. At the end of the day, you want them to defend. If you've got Gordon in front of any of the fullbacks, then give them the ball and let them get at it.
The point of Phil Foden playing more centrally also echoes the fact that that's exactly where Pep Guardiola put him as well this past season. So you would think that would have helped as well. I'm with you on Anthony Gordon. I like that direct approach that England need 100%. Personally, I think Ezri Konsa should have started the game, but we'll talk about that another time. Come on, Stevie. The same argument we have about Luke Shaw. Guehi was out for like 3 months as well.
Calm down.
At least give him a sniff. That's all I'm saying. But yes, there are definite places where some positions can be altered. Kobe Mainoo, I saw him live right there in the FA Cup final, how he schooled most of that game against Manchester City. He deserves a sniff. But regardless of everything, everybody, England need to perform way better than what happened in the first game, despite the fact that it was 3 points. Let's just do some quick predictions just for the hell of it. What do you think, Augie, tomorrow, England, Denmark? What do you think is going to happen?
I think England win easy, 2-0, 3-0. And it might not be a great game, but they'll win easy.
And they'll silence some people. Stevie Nicol?
Another win. It'll be a scruffy 1-0.
Another scruffy 1-0. Another boring.
And Stevie would take one of those against Switzerland. He would take one of those.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hey, very quickly, by the way, and Slovenia, Serbia, by the way, is the earlier game as well on that day. But very quickly on Spain, Italy. I mean, should be. I mean, historically speaking, it speaks wonders. But Spain, I mean, they have just looked wonderful. Italy just about got it done after conceding the first goal to Albania. But Stevie, what do you expect of that game, Spain against Italy?
Do you know? I think this is set up for Spain because I think the days of the sit tight Italy are gone. They want to go forward, and when you've got Jamal on one side and Williams on the other, if you're Morata, you're absolutely loving life. So I see a Spain win. I see an exciting game. I see two teams try to win the game. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a Spain victory.
All right, Augie?
I would never write off Italy. Italy know how to get the job done. Stevie's right. Spain beat them in many departments, but Italy just got a knack in big tournaments. They know how to do it, and I think they've got some good players. So I think this might be a draw. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw.
All right. Well, recent history has shown that Spain have come out victorious. They won their last 2 matches against Italy, both in the UEFA Nations League, of course.
Well, who won the Euros, the semi-final? Italy.
There you go. Okay. But I said recent. Okay. I said the last 2.
And
they've never won 3 consecutive matches against the Italians. So that echoes your point, Mark Holden.
Let's watch that, Augie.
But what a day, huh? Spain, Italy, England, Denmark, of course, and Copa America kicks off later. But that's it from us. We'll be back. There's much more to come, by the way. ESPN FC. That's why Stevie Nicol is in the studio. I'm imagining, right? You don't just like to go for fun, right? You have to go to work.
I don't. That's the only time I wear a tie.
Yeah. It's the only time. And by the way, tomorrow we have a great watch along. You can be on ESPN FC Live the entire day, okay? Beginning with a watch along of Slovenia, Serbia. I'll be right there. There's also going to be England, Denmark watch along. Then we're going to just keep chatting, going, watching the game. Spain, Italy included. Copa America wraps everything up. with Argentina against Canada in Atlanta, and then Football Americas will take over after that, including ESPN FC. So make sure that you tune in on ESPN FC live on YouTube. Stevie Nicol, have a great show, my friend. Mark Ogden, enjoy England, Denmark, and I hope you get to watch Five-Finger Death Punch.
Five-Finger Death Punch. I'm going to download it to Spotify, so I'm all over it.
Please download it, and we'll play a little bit of it in the next show. All right. Mark Ogden, thank you. Stevie Nicol, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you later on, tomorrow and so forth. Have a great day. Bye-bye.